Well, first of all, thank you all very much for attending today. My name's Kenneth Bannerman. I'm the founder of the Airfields of Britain Conservation Trust, which, if say you haven't heard of us, we formed way back in 2006, and we're essentially the world's first national airfield charity. And so as regards Foulsham Airfield, yet another of our really irreplaceable assets in this country. It first began to open in May 1942. The opening and closing dates of the airfield are a little bit vague, so we have to be careful with the inscriptions on any memorial for obvious reasons. But by the autumn of that year, October, flying really got going, and it was used by initially two North American Mitchell bomber squadrons, as it was famously known by the Americans, the B-25, famous bomber aircraft. So they carried out daylight missions for quite a number of months after that. But then Foulsham eventually came under the control of the special number 100 group. That was to do with the jamming and deliberate confusion of German air defences. So these were a mixture of bomber and fighter squadrons that were based here in Norfolk, quite concentrated. So you had other airfields like, say, North Creek and Swannington, where we actually unveiled memorials there way back in 2011, for example. So this great change came in the autumn of 1943, and the main units that were based there at that time were number 192 Squadron, which flew a mixture of Handley Page Halifaxes and D'Avelin Mosquitoes, and then an experimental unit called the Bomber Support Development Unit that carried out research into how further improving the effectiveness of RAF units jamming German air defences. Then later on, at the end of 1944, once the BSDU had moved to Swanton Morley Airfield, not far from here, an Australian unit called number 462 Squadron with more Halifaxes came in the scene. So this place played an enormous part in the winning of World War II, and it was a very busy place, and needless to say, all the incredibly brave personnel, who many of whom lost their lives sadly, which goes to say we should never ever forget. So come the end of World War II, the airfield closed to flying. It was still used in a residual capacity at that time by the RAF, but then it came back into prominence in the early 1950s for vehicle storage, as is still remembered here. This was a unit called number 99 Maintenance Unit. So at one point there were certainly well over 1,000 vehicles being stored here. Eventually this unit relocated in February 1954 to Lichfield in the West Midlands, Staffordshire. And that was really the end of Foulsham's active career. It became technically inactive. In other words, it closed. And then since then, I mean, I've been here over a number of times over the last number of decades, and it's still fairly tangible. You get sections of the runways and perimeter tracks, the hangars. The control tower was here till the late 1980s. So, but just on a day-to-day social effect, and this is a big part of what we emphasise as well with our charity, we just can't afford to lose our airfields in all sorts of ways, not just because of their tremendous histories, but also their phenomenal social impact. So as we just simply say, as we're going all over the UK, like we did yesterday at Coltishall, which by the way was our 200th memorial, we're doing all we can just there alone. We just say to people, just please, as much as you reasonably can, do all you can to help save, protect and honour all of our airfields, because it's in all of our interests to do so. They are helping us and always have done, whether militarily or socially, so it's the least we can do. Think about them, and of course it goes without saying, all these incredibly brave people who've served there, and not forgetting their families. So just within reason, just do all you can to help them. Now, just before we unveil the memorial, just to let you know, in case you might not be aware, that we will be unveiling a similar memorial this afternoon to commemorate Sculthorpe Airfield. That will be on the west side of the airfield, excuse me, at Sculthorpe Boulevard. That's one of the biggest airfields ever in Britain. And there seems to be great public interest there. And again, thank you all very much for attending. And therefore, without further ado, we are really honoured, Mr. Ravencroft and I, to unveil what is now ABCT's 201st memorial, in this case to yet another of Britain's absolutely priceless and irreplaceable assets, the one and only Foulsham Airfield. Thank you all very much. Thanks very much. Thank you.